Sometimes the most important stories remain untold. Behind one of the most famous equations in history stood a woman the world forgot. Born in the quiet village of Tidal in Srem on December 19, 1875, Mileva Marić was a girl with a gift few recognized at the time. In an era when science did not belong to women, she set out on the path of knowledge, alone yet unwavering. But how did a girl from a village enter the world of science, a world that was, at the time, reserved only for men? She was one of the first women to enroll at the Polytechnic Institute in Zurich, the most prestigious technical school in Europe at the time. She was the only woman in her class. Here begins the story of genius, love, and a silence forever sealed by injustice. In Zurich, she crossed paths with Albert Einstein, a mind destined for immortality, and a heart that would leave her marked forever. They studied together late into the night, solving complex equations side by side. By day, they walked through the parks of Zurich, lost in thought and in each other. What began as intellectual admiration slowly turned into something deeper, love. Beyond science, they were bound by something even more delicate: music. And from that music, life began to grow. In 1901, Mileva became pregnant with Albert's child. But there was no celebration, no promise of security. At the time, an unmarried mother was a scandal, and for a woman in science, it meant the end. She returned to her parents in Serbia, alone and in silence. There, she gave birth to a baby girl named Liesl, a child whose fate remains a mystery to this day. Some say she died of scarlet fever. Others say she was given away. Albert never saw the child, and in his letters, she slowly vanished. The pain never did. After months of silence, a letter arrived. Albert was calling her back to Zurich. Mileva had no idea that this letter would seal her fate forever. Hoping for a new beginning, Mileva returned, carrying more than just a suitcase. Their reunion was quiet, emotional, marked by a hope neither dared to speak aloud. Not long after, they were married. They continued working together on scientific ideas side by side, just as they once had. In the years that followed, they had two sons, Hans and Edward. But while her world revolved around family, his began to orbit around fame. Albert traveled more and more, lecturing, writing, and working with scientists across Europe. He moved to Berlin and invited Mileva to join him, but only under conditions he set. In Berlin, the distance between them only grew. Albert began seeing other women, including his cousin, Elsa Lowenthal. No words, no warmth, just silence and distance. Then he gave her a letter, a request for divorce. In it, he promised the Nobel Prize money to support her and their sons. Faced with Einstein's letter demanding a divorce, Mileva ultimately accepted, not for herself, but for the sake of their children. It was a painful decision, but one she made out of love. Their paths finally parted. Mileva returned to Zurich with the boys, determined to raise them on her own. She supported the family by giving private lessons in mathematics, music, and other subjects. Albert went on his own path, a path of scientific fame. Soon after the divorce, he married his cousin Elsa Winthal, with whom he had already been involved. His name grew more and more famous, and the theory of relativity brought him worldwide recognition. He traveled, lectured, and received countless honors and awards. In 1921, he was awarded the Nobel Prize, and as promised, he gave the prize money to Mileva to support their sons. While his life was filled with scientific triumphs and global acclaim, the wounds left behind in his family never truly healed. Their elder son, Edward, was later diagnosed with schizophrenia, a devastating blow to Mileva. She dedicated herself entirely to his care, spending nearly all of the Nobel Prize money on his treatment and support. Their younger son, Hans Albert, eventually moved to the United States, pursuing a career in engineering and building a life of his own. As Hitler rose to power in Germany, Einstein, a vocal pacifist and a Jew, found himself in growing danger. In 1933, he made the difficult decision to leave his homeland behind. He moved to the United States, where he would spend the rest of his life. But what happened to our heroine? She was left alone, without recognition, without applause, and without a partner. Like many true geniuses, she lived quietly and humbly, caring for her ill son, forgotten by the world that once surrounded her. In her final years, she battled illness and hardship in silence. Mileva died in 1948 in a modest Zurich hospital after suffering a stroke that left her bedridden. No headlines marked her passing, but her story endures, quietly, like she did. Her grave for a long time had no name, no headstone, no epitaph, no candle burning in her memory. Forgotten by history, a woman, a mother, a genius. Only decades later did the world begin to speak her name with reverence. A woman who quietly carried the weight of a century and the brilliance of a star. And perhaps that is why she became a light that never truly fades. Goodbye, Mileva. Good morning, Mileva. Thank you for watching. Yours, IQ Planet.